Hi everyone, welcome to my new video tutorial. Whether you're cosplaying as Cardcaptor Sakura, Sailor Moon or a Star Guardian, making Madoka or a maid uniform, or a sweet Lolita accessory, costumes often require the addition of a cute and sometimes gravity-defying bow. Originally this tutorial was made years ago on DeviantArt, so now it's time to revisit it and make it into an easy to follow video. In this tutorial, I'll be explaining a quick, visually appealing and very easy method of making anime style bows for your next costume or sewing creation. Not only will this tutorial show you how to keep the bow nice and puffy so it retains an anime-like quality, but also how to make the matching tails. Let's get started. For this tutorial you will need a sewing machine, a ruler for smaller measurements, a measuring tape, heavyweight sew-in interfacing, fabric of your choice, thread in a matching colour to your fabric, a sewing needle for hand sewing, and basic sewing essentials like pins, snips, scissors and so on. Let's begin! For fabric choices, you can choose whatever suits your fancy. Since I'll be working with medium weight cotton, I'll be using heavy interfacing to stiffen the fabric and give it some body and lovely fluffy poof. But if you're working with something very heavyweight and stiff already, you can skip the interfacing. First, figure out how big you want your bow to be in terms of width and length. Don't forget to include your seam allowance in your working. Then, cut out your bow pieces to be twice as long and twice as wide. This might seem excessive, but this way we can hide all the seams in the back of the bow instead of having them showing. You also want to cut a smaller bit for the middle tie of the bow. Make this twice as wide as well, and for length, make sure that it's long enough to wrap around the middle of the bow. Let's start on the main body of the bow, the important middle poofy bit. Fold your fabric in half lengthwise, pin, and sew it together. Press your seam allowances open, but make sure not to press the edges too flat, or it will come out looking like flat cardboard. Remember, we want lovely anime fluffiness to this bow. Now you can turn it inside out and make sure there's no ugly creases. You might ask why I'm using sew-in instead of iron-on interfacing. Iron-on interfacing will make the bow very flat and shapeless, and with time the creases of the bow will make the interfacing peel away from the fabric, giving an ugly, patchy look. Sew-in interfacing remains separate from the fabric and moves independently from it, giving it a more natural feel. Cut out a length of interfacing as long and wide as your tube and slip it inside. With the seams facing outwards, pin the edges together so it forms a ring and sew the ends closed. To clean off the edges, you can overlock the raw edge off. If you don't have an overlocker, you can tidy the edges with scissors and zigzag them shut so the fabric doesn't fray. Once this is done, your bow's main body should look something like this. Because we cut it twice as long and wide, we can hide all the ugliness away once we turn it inside out. Put this aside for the moment as we work on the middle part of the bow. Like the main body of the bow, fold the middle part in half and sew along the long edge, ironing the seam allowance open. I recommend putting a layer of interfacing into this part as well, since it's going to hold your bow together and needs to be strong. Turn it right side out and clean off the edges by overlocking or zigzag. It should look like a cute little parcel. Now to assemble the bow. Take the main body and hold the side edges, and in 3 simple steps, fold it inwards like an accordion. It always takes me a couple of tries to get the bow just how I like it. The size of the middle piece will always affect the way it looks. Too wide or small and it'll look out of proportion. It's worth playing around with different sizes to see what you like the look of. Once the main body is gathered, loop the middle part around the bow to hold it in place, making sure the seam line is facing inwards and hiding the seam line on the main body of the bow. Take your hand needle and hand sew the middle part of it closed. For strength, I'd recommend using tight, small stitches to keep it in place. And there you have it. Your very cute bow is now complete. Bonus round. Let's make some tails to go with our bows. I've found the easiest way for me to make tails is simply to bag them out. This is also good for special shapes on the end too. Cut the tails twice as long as you need, sewing the 2 side seams, and turn them inside out to give them a more realistic ribbon effect. Cut another piece of interfacing for each of the tails and slip them inside. This is to give them the same body thickness as the bow itself. Fold the tails at the top to give them the illusion that they've been pulled through the middle loop of the bow. Pin it down and sew. Don't forget to mirror the folds on the 2 tails to make them even. To attach them to the bow, arrange them on the back and hand stitch them down. For more realism, sew them close to the center part of the bow loop. For a little added strength, Add a couple of stitches to the main body of the bow to make sure those tails aren't moving anywhere they shouldn't. Congratulations! You have now made a poofy, fluffy anime style bow. Go forth and spread the prettiness and cuteness to the world. Thank you for watching my video. If you're interested in seeing more tutorials, please like, comment and subscribe to my channel, or follow me on Facebook or Instagram. Happy crafting!